right, it's Brian.
Jason.
And this is the Perfectly Screwed Podcast.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, this is part 3 of the Emerald Tablet. So if you haven't listened to part 1 and 2, please go back to episode 89. That's part 1, and part 2 is on episode 90. This will be part 3. And God knows how many parts we're going on. So where were we? We were talking about the Bible when we last ended episode 90. And Elohim, did you want to get into the genetic manipulation side of it, of the Emerald Tablets? Because, see, it's one thing I did want to say that I was thinking about was that, isn't it interesting that all of these ancient cultures wrote down in tablets? Thoth had tablets that were indestructible.
Right.
Moses, the Ten Commandments, had tablets that were indestructible, that were placed into the ark. You know, and Joseph Smith is another one. Found tablets, indestructible tablets that were of a Arabic foreign language, and that's how he came up with the Mormon religion. Mm-hmm. And all of these tablets are indestructible material.
Yep.
Can't be destroyed, and all kind of made of the same materials, carved by the gods.
Made to withstand the test of time. And that to me is crazy, because that means, to me, it means that as a civilization, you are advanced enough and knowledgeable enough to know that A, we need to leave this message behind. B, here's how we have to do it so it withstands the test of time. But also C, they had the foreknowledge, the knowing that they weren't going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That something was eventually going to happen and their civilization was going to fall. And it's everything in the universe, from what we can see, right, is rise and fall, is ebb and flow. There's nothing, like, it's all in and out. It's, the tide, it's the seasons, right? It's all works the same. It's the economy. It's up, it's down. It's civilization as a whole, right? You rise and you fall. You rise and you fall. And how many empires have risen and fallen that we know of? Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at the Emerald Tablets, it says that. It says, as above, so below. So it says that what happens up in the heavens with the gods is happening on the earth. So they have wars, they have conflict, just like we do.
Right.
And the deaths up there happen up there just like down here,
Right.
And, but getting back to the Emerald Tablets, the genetic manipulation is very interesting, because we were talking about the Halls of Amenti, and, basically what Thoth said was that when you go into these halls or this labyrinth or whatever, when you go into this lab, quote unquote, let's just call it a lab because we know it in nowadays terms, they could take and make a new body for you, which we can do now. We can grow a human out of nothing. Out of just genetic material, we can grow a human being in a tube. And if they can grow a human being then, see, it's just we're fucked up with moral compass. Science has the ability to grow you. They can take your DNA and grow a whole new you. Right there. Looks just like you, or grow anybody they want.
Right.
Alter your genes, everything. But we're so fucked up with that's immoral. That's only for God to do.
Right.
That we don't allow science to do what science could do. Well, if these people weren't so fucked up in the head about, this and that and God, they were doing this. And Thoth said they can take his essence and deposit it from his body into this other body that they're growing, that they made for him, and now he's this person.
Right. He said 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into the light. What's 100 times 10?
100,000, I think.
So for 100,000 years, right? At least. But that's exactly what he's talking.
Or is 100 times 10 1,000? It might be 1,000.
What we're talking about is, literally, man, is Avatar. Like, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm saying? transferring your consciousness. And even in Avatar,
Yeah, it's 1,000.
even in Avatar, the humans were recreating the Avatar people in test tubes, like you were saying. It's literally a transfer of consciousness.
And we can almost do that now.
Like
we're very close to being able to transfer you into a computer, and you can live on in a computer.
And like, to me, like, you're Brian, I'm Jason, right? But but that's not who we really are.
Right.
There's some kind of spark of light, of energy, of consciousness, call it whatever you want, that animates this body. Like, anybody that's seen a dead person, right? They're not there. Something, whatever it was that made them alive, has left the body. You know what I'm saying? It never dies, and it can transfer if you know how. Right? You can transfer it into anything else you want.
Right.
Into anything else you want.
Well, it's just electrical impulses.
Right.
So,
but
electricity can be well, that's a principle of physics. Matter cannot be destroyed. It only changes forms.
Right, energy.
Right. Yeah, energy cannot be destroyed.
Right. And so,
I mean, like, if you think about it as water, okay? Water evaporates. We see it evaporate, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's still water.
Right.
It's just in a different molecular state. You can't see it anymore, but now it's gas. And then as it cools, it becomes water again and turns back into its original form.
And then it can go to ice.
And it can go to ice if you freeze it. But again, if you heat it up, then it melts, turns back into water. But yet, nothing changes. If you burn wood, the particles released in the air, that's still basically wood.
Right.
It changes forms, but it doesn't really change what it is.
To me, you know what I mean? It's, people, like, if you think about how powerful we truly are, like, you know what I'm saying? Each cell in your body has, like, 0.07 volts of electricity. You know what I'm saying? Well, there's trillions of them.
Right.
We have, like, it's like 2.3, like, trillion volts of electricity coursing through our body at all times.
Well, everybody's done that experiment in science class at one point where where your teacher will rub a balloon on himself, causing static electricity from his own body. Then he'll grab somebody else. And you can feel the voltage travel around the whole circle.
Right.
Because the shock goes through every human being and right back around.
Right.
Because that's what we're made up of. We're made up of electricity and water. That's basically what we are.
Right. But also, like, to my point that, who we really are isn't this form. It's something different. It's something more powerful. Like, who beats your heart? You know what I'm saying? Who grows your hair? Who is responsible for your digestive system and your nervous system and all your organs all working at the same time? You know what I mean? It's fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. When you really get down to the inner workings of how this human form works, like, it's absolutely amazing. It's fragile as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, but who is doing that? Who is controlling all that? Who is running that? You know what I mean? Is that not you?
Right.
Right. It's crazy.
Well, the you that's you is not you. See, that's the problem.
Right.
People get stuck in their ego, which is a trick of your brain to give you a personality of, oh, I'm Brian. But you're not Brian.
Right.
You're beyond Brian.
You're
Brian.
Your source energy.
Brian is the brain part.
Your source
You
energy.
are the source energy. And yeah, Brian's a part of that source energy, but so is every life you've ever lived.
Right. And the brain is just a computer
that processes
that controls this human avatar form.
Right.
It's the brain isn't producing consciousness; it's translating it.
Yes.
Like you said earlier about as above, so below. Like, because that's Thoth. It said because he regenerates and comes back in different forms that he also was probably Hermes Trismegistus.
Yes, he said he was.
Of the Greeks, right?
Yeah.
And so, what was I lost my train of thought. Oh, you were talking about the as above, so below. So that's part of the Hermetic principles, or Hermes, right?
Yeah.
And all is mind, all is mental, all is mind is the first Hermetic principle, right? Meaning, all solid matter is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. As above, so below, the law of correspondence is actually number 2. You know what I'm saying? And and that's because no matter what, throughout the whole universe, you can't break it. It's a law that can't be broken. What is going on here is going on below you, is going on above you.
Right.
Period. End of story.
Right.
And so we are just smaller versions of the whole, right? The universe is a whole mind that's sending out his friends to bring him back information.
Right.
That's what we are. We're on a data collection.
Well, we're altered versions of the originals.
We each are a broken part of the whole mind, right? Assigned to go get information and take it back. And we're no different. The brain is encased in darkness. It doesn't know anything.
Right. It only feeds on what you feed it.
Right. It has its friends, the senses, go out, right, and give me some information. Go see, smell, taste, touch, bringing me back information, takes it back, and it translates it. What's going on out there? Translates it, and poof, projects an image out in front of you, and that's the matrix that you're walking around in this third dimension, you know what I mean, trying to navigate. Period. But to me, there's way too many, like, testimonials or whatever of near-death experiences.
Yes.
Like, there's too many that it's 100% to me, like, yeah, once you die in this, you know what I mean, and leave this avatar, this human body, you're not dead. You go somewhere.
Right. Right. Well, even we're talking about the Emerald Tablets, and as you bring up near death, everybody sees a light. And Thoth spoke about that these people that he was talking to in the halls of Amenti and all of this, the people that came from the stars, as he says, were the bringers of the light. They were the bringers of technology. They were the bringers of light. They were the bringers that showed him how you can beat death.
Right.
Whereas you don't have to die and wait to die to come back in your next form. You can come back in your next form before death.
But to me, it's not beat death as much as master it, can learn to manipulate it and control. Because you're not.
Yeah, because you're never dead. You never die.
You never actually die.
No, what they did is they accessed, these bringers of light in the Emerald Tablets actually accessed the energy form that manipulates the whole universe.
Right.
And they learned how to manipulate that energy form so that instead of your body dying and you going back to the energy and then being reborn in a body, they just cut out the middleman.
Well, so my thing is, when we die, if you know that you're not actually dying, see, that's the thing, as humans, how many people can realistically look at themselves in the mirror and be like, I know that I don't die? Fuck no, dude. 99.9% of people are fearing it.
Well, see, that's
They're
why
fearing
I think
it because
I know.
they don't know. They really don't. What's going to happen? Am I going to heaven? Am I going to hell? You know what I'm saying? But if you know for a fact that, hey, when you die, you're not actually dead, then yes, then now I can take that energy and guide it wherever the fuck I want because I know that I'm not actually dying. You know what I mean? I'm not going to another place and seeing the light and what the fuck's going on around here. You know what I mean? I know what's going on. I just left that form and now I'm going to this one.
Right.
And like you said, and I have the technology to do so. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, If I want to transfer information from one cell phone to another, I know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You do whatever you got to do. You transfer it over. It's the same fucking concept.
Yeah.
Same concept, right? I'm leaving this form,
Right.
and I want to transfer over to this other one.
Right. It's the same concept as like a computer. I could take any information in this computer and transfer it to any of my other devices. Okay? It's the exact same information.
Right.
Okay? It didn't die or change forms. It just went to a different place. It's the same information. It's the same. If I took this podcast and then transferred it to my phone, wirelessly or with a wire, it's the same podcast. It's the same podcast I'm recording right now. And it's the same with you and me. You don't die. All you do is change forms.
Right.
You're just transferring your information, your energy, into a different form.
Transferring you.
Into a different form.
I'm transferring me into Brian.
Right.
But
And in the
still
Emerald
me.
Tablets, they learned how to do this way early on
Right.
without the
And so think about that.
pain and suffering of
Think
the
about
body
that.
dying.
If you got 20 different avatars in this regeneration chambers, right? And you can live for 100 years, 200 years at a time. Yeah, you're going to go down. It's you. You're going to train. You're going to switch. You're going to, you know what I mean? Take who you are and switch it from this body into another. You never died. You never died. You know what I mean? And you keep, because the longer you live, the more fucking knowledge you have. And the
Right.
more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are.
Right.
So think about these beings, because he's probably not the only one.
Right. Right.
And so they could be anybody, right?
Right.
And they are so knowledgeable and so powerful, right? Because they possibly 56 million years old.
Mm-hmm.
They've been walking around on this earth with all this knowledge.
Well, see, that's the thing, and I think that's why they did this to begin with, these bringers of light, was because what they realized was something that we haven't realized yet. When you die, okay, the process of your body dying does something to the information that's stored. You lose some of it, and you forget it in your next reincarnation after a while. At first, some people still remember some of it, depending on how much
Right.
was transferred. But you lose some of it through the process of that. So what they figured was, what we'll do is they figured out a process to transfer all that information before the body actually died. That way you retain every bit of information you had in the previous life into your next form. So like you said, that way you become more and more intelligent. Each
Right.
form, you're still retaining all the information you
all
had
the knowledge
before,
you had before, right? And now you're just adding on top of it.
adding on top of it. Right. So now you just become a much more intelligent being. And we know, like, the Emerald Tablets, like, first of all, we were genetically altered to be who we are.
I mean,
Certain ones were genetically altered more. Like you were saying yesterday about, I can never remember the names of them, Illy and Inky or
Inky and Lil.
Enlil, right? And they were the original ones that were, and they're in the Sumerian tablets, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the Sumerian religion. They're in the Sumerian tablets.
But they're Anunnaki, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
Anunnaki
Yeah, the Anunnaki.
is just a generalized term. It literally means those who from heaven came to earth.
Well, the Emerald Tablets speak of the Anunnaki, too.
Right.
And that's what he calls the bringers of light originally. So, and in
They're called the Anunnaki because Enlil and Inky's father, his name was Anu.
Right. And Anu's the original one that bring them all to Earth. So something happened where they had to come to our planet. Well, then there was an uprising because there was a lower class in the Anunnaki that were like a slave class, did all the work. They didn't like it, so they rebelled.
Yeah, because honestly, like the story kind of goes, Anu was the leader of whatever planet they came from.
Right.
Right? And the reason they got here was there was a battle on the planet. Anu was battling. His name was Alalu. Alalu wanted, power. He wanted to kill Anu. They get into a battle. He doesn't kill Anu, but he, wounds him. And now everybody on the planet is after Alalu. They want to fucking kill this motherfucker. You know what I mean? So he has to get off planet. So he hops in a fucking spaceship and takes off. And lands here on Earth and sends back information saying, hey, we got gold.
Yeah.
And like the story goes is that on the planet that Enlil and Enki and Anu, come from, their atmosphere is failing.
Yeah.
And the way they're trying to patch it is with gold. You know what I mean? And so that's what's happening. Now all these motherfuckers are coming down to mine the gold. And yes, and they get sick and fucking tired of doing the work.
Right. And when that happened, they said, we need somebody to take over this. So the best way they could do it is to genetically alter the race that was already here of Neanderthals, hunter-gatherers, to do the work. But can't make them too smart, Jason.
Right.
Can't have them intelligent. We just need them smart enough so we can tell them how to do the work. So again, like we were talking about, and see, that's one of the things that got deleted, actually. But I believe the Garden of Eden was a biodome. I believe it was a lab, a contained structure, because if you're altering genes and creating a new species of worker bees, okay, you would want a couple test subjects. So you would create this lab, a controlled environment, where you could watch them, come down, talk to them, and it said God would walk with Adam and talk to him. Well,
yeah, you're monitoring your creation.
You're monitoring,
see how it's going.
What you're making.
Right.
So he took some of the genes of the Neanderthals, some of his genes, he combined them and said, here we go, we got this. So they're in the biodome. But they don't have knowledge yet of everything that's going on around them. They just know this little biodome. Right. That's all they know.
And they're not supposed to have it.
Right, and he doesn't want them to have it because
they're forbidden to eat of it.
Right. But then someone comes along and alters their genes even more and teaches them what they weren't supposed to know.
Right.
And when that happens, of course, you've got to kick the experiments out of the biodome because now the experiment is tainted. Your experiment is completely fucked.
Yeah, well, and that to me is what would make strongest case for your argument about it being some kind of biodome or some kind of enclosed structure, right? Is that Adam and Eve were kicked out?
Yes.
What do you mean kicked out?
And then they sealed the gates.
Right, they're kicked out. If you're getting kicked out of somewhere, well, then you're in something.
Right, you couldn't have.
Right.
You can't just wander around. It obviously isn't an open garden. If he kicks you out and then says he put angels in front of the gates to guard it,
right.
Well, why is there gates? If there's gates, then you were enclosed.
100%.
Which only makes sense if it was a huge biodome.
And it would make sense that beings coming from a different planet would be in a biodome.
Right.
To start out. We would be.
Right.
If we went to... You have to be.
Yeah, if you went to Mars,
Or
what
anywhere.
would we be in? We'd be in a biodome.
Right.
Until we...
You have to have the spacesuit with
Right.
oxygen and everything to even survive out there
Right.
in the first place.
Right.
So yeah, so if you want a large number of people to survive, they're going to have some kind of...
Right. And if you were doing an experiment and you wanted to isolate your experiment from the other wild creatures that are out there that are humanoids, you would put them in an enclosure that was specially made just for them so you can monitor them and see, hey, is this experiment working?
Because that's another thing about an enclosure. It's designed to keep you in, but it's also designed to keep something out.
Right. And we know there was other beings out there
Right.
because later on, Cain goes, the people out here in Nod will kill me. And he goes, I'll put a mark on you so you don't get killed, bud.
Right. You're good.
So, it'll tell the people out there, hey, this is one of my creations. This is one of the special people I created. Don't you touch him.
And it's crazy, too, because from Cain comes Enoch. From Enoch comes Noah.
Right.
Straight down that line.
And and that's what happened was they genetically altered the Neanderthalic humanoids on this planet. They put them in a biodome, and then somebody gave them knowledge, and they kicked them out before they could get even more knowledge about what was going on.
To me, it's obvious that maybe part of us is from Earth, but there's also a part of us that's not from here.
Yeah, clearly.
Just look the fuck around. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing else. There's nothing else in nature on this planet that does what we do.
Nothing. And this is the thing: if they're right that it's all, what do you call it, evolution, then eventually you would think some other animal would evolve to the point where we are.
Well, and if it was evolution, and evolution is defined as, you know, the strongest survive, you know, basically. That doesn't make sense. If we went from, like, primate, ape, gorilla, you know, into human beings, then why did we shed our fucking fur? We could kill fucking animals to cover up? Because we would freeze to death if we didn't cover up.
Well, where's the missing link?
Right.
That's the problem with evolution. There's a huge jump from Neanderthal to humanoid.
Right.
Right. It's almost like instantaneous.
Right.
It's like you got Neanderthal, boom, all of a sudden humanoids appear.
And why are we the only ones left?
Well, this is the question. Why have no other animals evolved to this point?
Right.
Why are monkeys not conscious of what they're doing? I mean, they mimic our behaviors and they'll catch fish and shit, and you can teach monkeys simple shit.
It clearly looks like in a million years they may get there.
Yeah, but why haven't they got there as quick as us?
And we got, how did we get there so fast?
Right, instantly.
Right.
From monkey to boop, here we are.
Right, well, from hunter-gatherer.
Yeah, to boom, now we're...
to building pyramids.
Pyramids, yeah. All of a sudden we know how to use electricity and boom, and everything, figured it out.
Advanced mathematics.
Yeah, guy woke up one day and was just like, you know what, I'm tired of sitting in a cave. I think I'm going to go build me a house.
Right.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's real easy.
Yeah. Come on, guys. I'll show you how. Come on over here.
Right.
Hey, grab that rod over there. You know what? This lightning is striking. We can use that to play things.
Even the Bible says that, you know what I mean? We were given the knowledge.
Yes.
Like, all the knowledge of this stuff was, you know what I mean? It was given to us from somebody else. Somebody came down here and gave us the knowledge.
Correct.
On how to do all this stuff.
Well, we're cutting this episode again. This has been part 3, and we've got more parts to go. But thank you for listening to episode 91.
We're going strong on this.
I know. And you will have a part 4 and probably part 5s maybe later on. But thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Later.